Hey, welcome to Forest County Outback. Today we're going to take another road trip, this one along Tionesta Creek, and we're going to address a subject that comes up periodically, which is the story of the Indian silver mine. So we're going to call this one Forest County Outback number 3, the Creek Road Crawl. Now, I know if you've been following this channel, we've gone beyond 3 videos, but when I started this, for reasons I won't go into, I skipped over 3. So even though we're beyond 3, we're just going to call it 3, fill that gap, and so there will be no lost episodes to search for. Okay. In 1941, when the Tionesta Flood Control Dam was completed, the Corps of Engineers evacuated the residents of the valley all the way up to Kellettville, and it was about 1,500 people if my figures are right. Now, evacuation was a polite way of saying we're going to seize your property, pay you a fraction of what it's worth, and force you to relocate whether you want to or not, and have a nice rest of your day. Now, when this story is told, it always focuses on the towns of Nebraska and Newtown and Kellettville. And what's lost in this story is the people who had farms and homes that were strung out between those towns all the way up the valley. So in April of this year, 2022, my son and I went from Jug Handle up to Newtown, and we looked at the old home sites. And unfortunately, I don't have any photos of the area before the dam to show you. So if anybody out there has some old photos like that and would be willing to let me scan them, I can edit them into the video at a future date, and you'll have my thanks for what it's worth. So we're on the north bank of the creek, and if you look close over there, that's where the S&T ran, and you can see the grade in different places. But this flat down here that we're on now was part of the Perry and Elmira Moore farm, and in 1940 these were all open fields here. The Moores lived right at the bottom of Jug Handle Run, and I'll show you where their farm and house was, their barn and house was, and they raised 10 kids down here. Perry he worked in the woods for Collins, worked on log trains, and after they were forced out of their home here, he bought the Wolf Corner store. So you can imagine living down in a place like this. This had to be a little piece of paradise, and being forced out of your home. That probably wasn't a very nice experience at all. So up there was the state road that ran from Nebraska to Kellettville. And there's Jug Handle over there. And like I said, this was all farm field, and it's all open fields on this side of the creek. So this is the site of the Moore homestead, and I found aerial photographs of this valley that were taken in 1939-40, just before the place was evacuated. And there was a large building here. You can't tell whether it was a house or the barn, but it was right here. And see that big square stone? Although I think that may have come from the bridge over there. But it was right along the road here, right next to the road. And there was another building on back here, and there's part of the foundation still there. So we're going to go take a look at that. So there's the foundation. From the photograph aerial, it's hard to tell which was the house and which was the barn. Got some stones over here. And that's looking down towards Tionesta Creek. You got another pile of stones here. And looking on the photos, it's hard to tell. The resolution's not real good. Can't tell if there was another building here or not. If you're interested, you go to, the site is Pennsylvania Imagery, and it's kind of like Google Earth or Earth Explorer, but it's just a Pennsylvania. And you can zoom in, and there's a function on there where you can look at maps going back to the late 1930s is when they first started doing aerial photography. And that's how I found out about a lot of these places in here. And there's a function on there where you can actually zoom in and do a clip the photos and get a bigger photo of a specific area. But that's a function that works sporadically. It's a government website, and most government websites, the concept of user-friendly does not apply. So it's tough. Sometimes the function works, sometimes it doesn't. I'll see this flat over here, the creek's over that way. These were all open fields. These were farm fields. It was crop field, not pasture. This was part of the Moore farm. Before the Moores lived here, a guy named Sutley had. I think he was the one who first cleared it. Okay, this was the William and Rosetta Bogus place. And he was another guy, worked in the woods, worked in a barge yard, and eventually for the highway department after the mill's shut down. And yeah, you see they've been shoving dirt up on the foundation here. See, there's the one corner over there of the house, and another over here, and then there's some stone piers through here. And of course, like I said, this was all, again, this was farmland. This was all open fields through here. And there was another building on this farm up that way a little bit. We'll see if we can find that. Yeah, lots of stone piers here for this house. And they had 5 kids. Okay, we're about 50 yards up from the Bogus place. We think this is the Hunter farm. This nice big foundation here. There's another one up here. We don't know if this was a house or the barn, but there is another one. I'm kind of leaning towards this being the barn. The houses tended to be a lot smaller, but yeah. And again, this is just off the road. I don't know if you can see that guy standing up there. That's my son, and he's standing on the creek road. Again, like I said, these were all open fields. There's some apple trees in here. And you can see the S&T grade over on the other side. And that foundation up there. I'd say this had to be the barn, because open on this end towards the fields. So this is the other foundation. Actually, it's really not a foundation, it's just some piers in here, but you probably can't tell. You can see there's one there. There's some other ones in here. I'm not going to wade in here because the ticks down here are really, really bad. And yep, here's another one. Damn it. Okay. So, head on up the road. We are near the junction of Ross Run. The bridge over there. And on the photo, there was a building right in this location. Right next to the road. Don't see any sign of it. But no idea what building was for. It would have been right here in this look, right here, right next to the road. And it's odd because I have an 1865 map and it shows a building here then. So 35, almost 80 years later, we don't know if it was the original building or not. That map also showed the structure over that way, and it's not on a photograph, so probably was history by then. Okay, we're going a little further back in time. This is Ross Run Junction, and you probably can't see it on the other side of the creek. There was a trestle here that tied into the S&T. This was the Hickory Valley, came down Ross Run. And you can see over there, there's a built-up area that's low on either side of it. And that's where the trestle crossed. And there's still wooden pilings on the other side of the creek from that. And the trestle crossed here and went up this way. I'm going to show you something interesting about it. I talked to a guy one time. His father worked for Wheeler and Duesenberry, and his specialty was bridge building. And he told me they used to keep a supply of timbers up at Newtown because every couple years this bridge would get washed out and they have to come and rebuild it. So this is where the Hickory Valley Railroad came down, and you see there's these trenches across here, and they just, every about 10 or 15 feet there's a trench, and this series just keeps going up. And I think the trestle actually started back there. This was you know, the trestle was built on top of these raised mounds. And it's just a whole series of them up through the trees there. So a photograph of this trestle would be interesting. And I don't know of any, but I'm sure there's around somewhere. And they just continue on up. Okay, so we're just a little ways down from Ross Run Junction, and there's this little pile of stone here, and the old aerial photo shows a small building right next to the road here. No idea what it was. It was a small, like I said, it was a very small building. A little further down the road, and there's the photo shows some more buildings here, and you see these stone piers on out there. There's a couple four rows of stone piers through here, and you know whose farm this was, we don't know. But again, all this around here was open, cultivated area. And we've got some more over this way. And over here, we have more foundation stones. I'm not going to get in here too much because the ticks are really bad. And that last building I showed you was right on the other side of that pine tree. So this was all, like I said, these are all on the aerial photograph. And then photograph shows a row and a building across the road here. We're going to go take a look at that. Okay, said there was another building up here, and here's the basement. The stone here, see the entranceway over there. So we're just off the road, up above the road here a little bit. Okay, this is going to be the last stop today, and that's Newtown over there, and that is going to be subject of a future video because it's a little deep to wade right now and I don't have my kayak. But I do want to show you the spot here. This is where, this is called Town Hollow, and there was a building, and I've seen photographs of it, and I think it was a 3-story building, big white frame, and it was still on the 1940 aerial photograph. It was still here, and it sat right in here right next to the stream. I don't know what it was for, but it's considering where it sat, I'm thinking it may have been a grist mill. Since I did the video, I found out that that was the Kingsley Township building. In fact, it looks like that might be a foundation stone right there. Around taking a look from over here. You know what? There are cut stones here around this culvert. Look at that. So that probably came from the foundation. Okay, I can see part of a wall underneath there. So try to get a better look at that. You see the cut stone around that culvert? And there's more stone up here. And then there's some brickwork in there. So I'll have to do some more research. But like I said, I think this may have been a grist mill given its location. The Indian silver mine. I get this question a lot. Is there a silver mine and where is it? Now, there isn't a locality in this country or Canada probably that doesn't have this story about an Indian silver mine, or sometimes it's a gold mine. And the stories are always pretty similar. There's a hunter or trapper who gets caught out in the woods at night or in a storm, and they take shelter in his cave, and it's lo and behold, it's this mine. And then they can never locate it again. Doesn't sound like much of a woodsman to me. A variation of this is that there's a white person who found it, or the Indians have shown it to him, and then they realize he's gonna rat them out, so they end up murdering him to keep it a secret. What we're talking about is murder, not much of a secret. Reality is that given the geology of this part of the country, silver doesn't occur here. Not at least, there are some trace deposits, but they're very minuscule, and they're certainly not worth mining. There in the 1700s, there were a couple small mines over in the eastern part of the state, but they weren't financially, there wasn't enough there to make it worthwhile. So I gotta say, no, there's no silver mine. Another thing people cite as evidence is, and I don't know if this story is true, that there were some graves, native graves excavated up near Warren, and they had silver artifacts in them. And people say, oh, that's proof that there was a mine here. What it is indicating, what it indicates is trading networks. Now, before the real estate developers from Europe started showing up in the 1600s, the natives had continent-wide trading networks. That's why you see things like seashells from the Atlantic and the Pacific coasts turning up in digs in the Midwest. Okay. One of the other things I find amusing about this is when people ask me about this, is they'll say, they'll ask me, does it exist and do you know about it? Well, if I knew about it, seriously, would I tell you? So, if you like our content, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Don't be shy about it. Put yourself out there. Share, comment, and until the next time, hey, we'll see ya.